Well, in fact, it's just gone lunchtime, and this is the third and final hour of All Angles here on eNCA. Good afternoon, I'm Masego, and it is that time of the day when we give you an update on how far many of the stories we've been following up for you throughout the course of the day have advanced. It's now time for your lunchtime update. All right, let's bring in our reporters on the ground. We've got Silindelo Masikane in Johannesburg. Manqoba Mchunu is also in Johannesburg, and Lethiwe Mdluli is in KwaXolosi in KwaZulu-Natal. Let's start with Slee here in Johannesburg, where a Heidelberg man is trying to reclaim his identity and prove that he is not the infamous Facebook rapist. It turns out the man who escaped out of prison after faking his death had stolen the identity of his known by. Now, police have since launched a manhunt with regards to this Tabo Besta issue. What is Correctional Services saying? Because the last time they were adamant that Tabo Besta died, and now it looks like they've changed their minds.
Well, over this weekend, we saw Correctional Services making a U-turn in terms of the information that they were insisting they had in terms of the supposed death of convicted rapist Tabo Besta. It's now come to light, or following investigations, internal investigations, and DNA testing of the body that was burnt in that particular cell in the Manqoba prison. Following those investigations by police in the Free State, it turns out that the man who died in that police cell, in that prison cell rather, was not Tabo Besta, and Correctional Services has since had to, of course, launch a number of investigations internally, because the prison in particular that's in question, Manqoba prison, is a private-public partnership between Correctional Services and a private contractor being G4S. Now that means that it's in essence, Correctional Services is not responsible for running of the prison, the day-to-day running of the prison. They have given a contract to a particular private security company to not only build the prison, but to run it, to staff it, and to house very dangerous people in society. And now it seems that one of those people has managed to escape using very elaborate measures, in essence a fire that was the cover-up for the escape of Tabo Besta. Now, Correctional Services says that in essence they now in the second phase of their investigations. However, they've hit a bit of a snag because there is a disagreement between themselves and G4S. It seems G4S insists that the man who died in prison was Tabo Besta. Let's take a listen.
As Correctional Services, we are now engaging with the second leg in terms of what does the contract say when it comes to an escape. But number two, the security breaches that we've identified. Unfortunately, there is no common ground. We don't seem to find each other with the contractor in terms of our findings and what they think to be their findings, and that's where we are right now. It's a matter that needs to be resolved so that we can move forward in terms of how do we then proceed with the working relationship that we have with the contractor.
If my understanding is correct, then is the contractor then disputing that the body is not of Tabo Besta?
Yes, there are disagreements. They maintain that the inmate whom was allocated that particular cell is the one that died in that fire, and we are saying that is not the case.
Right, let's take you to Manqoba, who's also here in Johannesburg, where Health and Allied Workers Indaba trade union employees are demonstrating. They're calling for the health department to employ them on a permanent basis. Manqoba, what's the latest with that march?
Well, Masiko, the protesters have just handed over their memorandum here to the Gauteng Health Department. Of course, from here, they'll then be making their way to the Premier's office, where they're going to also deliver a memorandum. And of course, part of the demands that they have listed in that memorandum is for the permanent employment of all contract nurses, but not only nurses, also those who work under the EWP program, which is the Extended Public Works Employment Services. Those will be the cleaners, will be the securities at these public healthcare facilities, who they say have been exploited for quite a number of years. And they are saying that those workers, they want to see the department absorbing them as per promise that was made by officials a few years ago, and that's mainly what they are asking for, Masiko. But I've got the Gauteng Health Department spokesperson, Motale Modiwa, just to give us a response to some of these issues that they've raised. Motale, of course, they've given you a memorandum, but key to this memorandum is a demand for workers or contractual workers to be fully employed by the department. Is this feasible at all?
Yes, we have received the memorandum. We will be responding to that particular memorandum because it's got a particular time frame for us to respond to. Some of there's issues of budgetary constraints that obviously we need to look into insofar as areas where we need to permanently absorb people. If you look at the COVID-19 post, for example, that they've mentioned, we've only received 600 million for us to be able to utilize that grant in terms of filling in those critical posts. Even with that, we've already engaged with facilities. They've given us their prioritization list in terms of what skills they cannot do without, so that those can be prioritized. We know that we need to ensure that doctors are appointed, nurses are appointed, and the aim is to appoint as many people as possible. Of course, with the other programs like your expanded public works program, that program is a 12-month program that is really aimed at giving communities certain skills, and once the 12-month program period is finished, you then are able to then take new people that they have to come in and be able to. So it's not a program where you permanently appoint people, but it's a program where for a period of 12 months you are able to capacitate people with certain skills that will enable them that when there are opportunities, especially at an entry level, it gives them a better chance for them to be able to take up those particular opportunities. Of course, as I said, we will look into the specifics of the memorandum and look at some of the issues. Fortunately, those issues that they've raised, many of them are part of issues that are currently being ventilated across different multilateral platforms.
Okay, thank you very much. That was Motale Modiba just giving us an update as far as some of those demands are concerned. Of course, they have now left here, Masiko, and they're making their way to the Premier's office, where they're going to be handing over their second memorandum.
All right, now let's take you to Lethiwe Mdluli, who is in Manqoba, where parents are demanding that the Basic Education Department build proper toilet facilities at the school. Lethiwe, just tell me in terms of what the parents have been, voicing out in terms of their frustration when it comes to pit latrines.
Well, Masako, we've been speaking to a community activist and as well as parents in the Manqoba area who have raised a lot of concerns in terms of pit toilets that some of the schools are still using till this day. That area actually protested earlier this year because they were calling for the Department of Education in the province to do something to eradicate this issue. They are saying that in 2015 they were promised that pit toilets would be finished and that a contractor would be hired and they would be building toilets in that school. But for 8 years, nothing has been happening. After they protested earlier this year, the Department of Education went back to the school to try and address the issue, and they were promised that by June the contractor would be introduced to the community and then work will start after June. But when we spoke to the community activist a bit earlier on, he was raising issues that the pit toilets in that primary school are a problem. They are fearing that the pupils might actually get hurt. You'd remember that recently a toddler in the Eastern Cape died after shortly falling into a pit toilet, and a lot of parents are scared that this will be the same thing that happens to their children, because this system has not been able, or the Department of Education rather, has not been able to get rid of the system for many years. KZN is one of those provinces that is still dealing with this issue. It's not only
only in the rural areas but also in the urban areas as well. And we were hoping that we were going to get a chance to speak to the Department of Education in the province about this issue. We're actually standing outside the offices right now, but they haven't been able to answer any of our questions or get back to us in regards to whether we will be getting that interview or not. It would have been nice to speak to them and just find out some of the work that they're doing in terms of trying to eradicate this problem. But hearing from the National Minister yesterday during a media briefing, she did say that they're aiming to eradicate pig toilets in the country by 2025. But of course, they've been moving this deadline for years now, and it seems like they are losing the fight in terms of eradicating this issue. But when we spoke to the community activist in Manqoba earlier on, and these are some of the issues that he raised in terms of having the system still in place in schools.
Lesikole sikusona iKhanyisani Primary School. Sisi into eyenzekile la from 2015 sasithenjisiwe ukuthi la toilet lawa awulolu hlobo azolungiswa. Sabuka isikhathi kumanje 2023. So umphakathi ugcine ungasaphathekile kahle, sathi nathi asiphume siye ngaphandle sichambe ukuthi sithole attention ukuthi sazi ukuthi ikole zethu zenze njani. So into ebengasiphathile kahle ama-toilet emgodi izingane zethu ezifunda la zincane, into eyenzakala ukuqala nje ezinye ingane kwavela nje indabeni ingane iphoseke emgodini kwesinye seyikole not la kodwa la ekhaya. So lezi zinto azikho safe and nezifo ezikhona manje sibuya ko COVID, umuntu esasenza itoilet lemgodi uyabona ukuthi izifo kuningi ukuthi ukutheleleke inganeni. Neminyaka esikuyona ke nje no government wethu sibone ngathi akasinakile ukuthi singaphila from into ekade yayiphila ogogo nomkhulu namanje kusenzeka kuyona kuthina kulesikhathi esikusona.
All right, that was your lunchtime update from all angles here on eNCA with our reporters Lethiwe Mdluli in Manqoba and KZN, Silindelo Masikane as well as Mchunu, both here in Johannesburg. Thank you, team.